Here are 3 things that you can do if you keep hearing, "Let me think about it," when you ask for referrals. Welcome back to the Scotty Taylor Jr. Success Money Mindset podcast. This is the #1 place for financial advisors and insurance agents to grow and scale your business to $25,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 per month without working more hours. And one of my favorite topics to talk about, as y'all probably know, is prospecting. And so when I do talks, when I do keynote speaking events, when I have conversations with my one-on-one coaching clients, folks inside my Financial Advisor Academy, one of the questions that I inevitably get all the time is, "Scotty, how do I overcome the objection when somebody says to me when I'm prospecting, 'Yeah, I'm happy to refer you business. Let me think about it. Let me get back to you.'" And so the conversation typically goes something like, the advisor will ask for referrals. "Hey, Sally, was this conversation helpful?" "Yes, it was so helpful." "Awesome. Hey, Sally, I would love to meet a couple other people in your world that you think would be open to having this conversation. Who do you know that you think would be open to chatting with me and my team?" Sally says, "Absolutely, happy to refer you. Let me think about it and let me get back to you." Or you say, "Hey, Sally, what about your brother or your coworker or your friend?" And Sally says, "Yeah, I'm happy to. Let me just check with them first. Let me ask them first if it's okay that I refer you to them." If you ever get this, if you're asking for referrals, my assumption is that you've probably gotten this at some point in time in your career. I know we all have. And so today I want to share with you 3 ways that you can actually overcome this objection. The first way, interestingly enough, is by overcoming the objection before you even get the objection. So I call this getting out ahead of it. So when somebody comes to me and they're like, "Scotty, I'm at the end of the fact finder, I'm at the end of the close, I asked for the referral, I asked for the contact information," and they say, "Let me think about it. What do I do? What do I do, Scotty?" What I tell them is that what you're basically asking is, you've gotten into an airplane, you're up in the sky, you do not have a parachute, and you jump out of the airplane, right? You jump out of the airplane with no parachute, and you turn to me and you're like, "What should I do?" And I'm like, "It's too late. It's too late. You already jumped out of the airplane. You just have to wait a little bit, hit the ground, and then you can start over." And so what I mean by that is, if the person gives you the objection, let me think about it, it's too late. It's too late. Overcoming that objection, if you try to, is going to make you feel very salesy, very pushy, because you're like, "Oh yeah, totally, you can think about it. So, and you're basically just ignoring the fact that this person is saying like, "Hey dude, I'm not comfortable giving you a referral right this moment." That's like their nice subtle way of saying it, because the reality is they don't really need to think about it. Maybe sometimes they do, but they don't need to think about it. They just are not feeling super comfortable in the moment. So the first technique that I have for you to overcome that objection is to actually get out ahead of the objection. And so what this looks like is setting this up in the beginning of the conversation and getting an acknowledgement, getting a yes, that they are willing and open to giving you a referral. So often when advisors ask for referrals, they're not actually getting the affirmative that the person is willing to give you a referral, right? Sometimes it goes something like this. "Was this conversation helpful?" "Yes." "Awesome. I would love to brainstorm a couple people in your world that you think would be open to connecting with me and my team." Where in there did I ask, "Is it okay if we do some prospecting right now? Is it okay if we brainstorm?" I got no acknowledgement there. I'm just assuming that they're going to say yes to that. And some people will, but most people won't, because most people are going to be sitting there thinking, "What's going on? Why are you asking me for referrals?" So here's what I like to do. In the approach, or in the beginning of the fact finder, I have an agenda. And in the agenda, I put the word introductions. And so when I go through the agenda, I will note at the end, right in the beginning of the conversation, I'm like, "Hey, I'm going to go through this agenda together. That's what we're going to focus on." And then I say introductions. And at the end of the conversation, what I'd love to do is take about 5 to 6 minutes, identify a couple people in your world that you think would be open to connecting with me and my team. And then if you're cool with it, I would love email introductions to those people. Does that sound fair? Does that sound okay? And get an acknowledgement up front. It's a little bit uncomfortable, right? Just to be fully transparent, it's a little bit uncomfortable to do that, right? Discomfort is okay. It's a little bit uncomfortable to do that because you're now bringing the objection to the surface, if there is one. Because they could say, "Well, Scotty, I don't really give out referrals," or "I'm not really comfortable with that," or "Maybe, but let me talk to them." But when you get the acknowledgement up front, you're setting the expectation for how the conversation is going to go. So when you get to the end of the conversation, the person doesn't feel blindsided, right? They don't feel like, what the heck are you talking about? So getting out ahead of it is universally the absolute best way of overcoming any objection. So if you get the objection, let me think about it, let me ask them. The best way of overcoming that objection is not by overcoming it, it's actually by eliminating the objection in the beginning of the conversation. So you can do that in the beginning of the approach, in the beginning of the fact finder, or you can even do it when you're in the prospecting. So when you get to the prospecting side, you say, hey, in the last couple of minutes, what I'd love to do, if you're okay with it, is brainstorm a few people in your world that you think would be open to connecting with me and my team. I'll explain a little bit more about how we connect with folks and what we do with them. And then if you're open to it, I would love a couple email introductions to those people, but only if you're comfortable. How does that sound? Does that sound fair? And you ask them at the end of the conversation, right? You literally ask them, is it okay that we do this? And guess what? It's okay if they say no. I know that you're probably thinking like, well, I don't want them to say no, Scotty. I need the referrals. But guess what? You don't need the referrals, because if you're going to try to force somebody to give you referrals, what is the energy that you're putting out there? So we all have autonomy and we want to guide people through our process, but they also have their ability to say no, right? So that's the first one. All right, let's dig in. The second strategy is explaining to the person why you're asking and settling their fears, settling their resistance. So here's something that you may or may not have thought about. When you ask somebody for a referral or you ask somebody for an introduction, what happens, this is a very little known fact, is that there is something called perceived risk that the person starts to experience when you ask them for a referral. So let's just play this out, right? So to really understand what perceived risk is, like what this means, if I were to sit with you, let's say your name is Mike, and I'm like, hey, Mike, I would love to meet 3 people in your world that you think would be open to having a conversation with me and my team about financial planning. Mike, in this scenario, the first thing that Mike is going to think of is what is going to happen to those people, right? What is the risk of me referring these people to Scotty? And so the risk on Mike's side is I might damage a relationship. What happens if I refer my friend and my friend turns to me, right? I'm pretending that I'm Mike. My friend turns to me and is like, why would you refer me to a financial advisor? Do you think that I'm like struggling financially? Or Mike refers me to somebody and then the person goes, Mike, why'd you give out my contact information? Like, that was really fucked up. Like, I really didn't want you to do that. So Mike, in this scenario, has perceived risk. That's the perception of risk. It's not ultimate risk. It's not necessarily real risk, because those things may or may not come to fruition. But Mike's mind is going to go to the place of, I need to protect myself. I need to protect my social status, my social relationships, and there's really no benefit to giving Scotty a referral in this situation. Like, why would I give Scotty a referral? Like, it's not really going to benefit me at all. It may be a nice thing to do for him. Like, he seems like a nice guy and he's doing a good job, but like, there's no actual benefit to me giving him a referral. But there is a whole bunch of risk that I'm experiencing, right? Maybe Scotty calls my friends, he harasses them, they get upset with me, they're mad at me that I gave out their contact information. Like, there's all these potential negative consequences and circumstances that can happen when Mike, this fictional prospect in this scenario, gives out a referral. So what do? Well, we help quell those fears by explaining the process in a little bit more detail. So the way that I like to go about it is I say, hey, Mike, I'd love to spend the next couple of minutes brainstorming a few people in your world that you think would be open to connecting with me and my team. But before I do that, what I'd love to do is explain to you a little bit more about the types of people we work with and what that process typically looks like, so you have a really good idea of what exactly would happen if you were to refer us somebody. How does that sound? And Mike's like, oh, good. Okay, he's going to explain the process to me. Awesome. Then what I would say is, well, Mike, the team and I, we specialize in working with 2 different types of people. And I would go through my process, right? Like the types of people that I work with. And then I would say at the end of that, and so when we're introduced to people, what we offer them is a brief 7 to 9 minute intro conversation, very much like this conversation, right? Very much like the conversation we had. And so our intention is just to get to know people. There are no expectations if these people need or want any financial help. So if you were to introduce us to somebody, we're not expecting that they need help. We just want to make ourselves a resource to them and make sure that they know that we exist. So that being said, what I would love is if we could brainstorm maybe 3 or 4 people in your world that you just think are great people. Like you just think are awesome people that you really enjoy. And I would love an email introduction to them. So I would love if you would introduce us via email. And what I'll do is I'll email them a little blurb and I'll include a link to my calendar. And if they want to meet with me, awesome. And if they don't, I will not follow up with them. So there's no pressure, really. So that is my way of quelling Mike's fears and resistance, right? So see what I did there. I basically shared with Mike specifically, hey, we're not gonna like call these people 150 times. I'm only offering them a 7 to 9 minute conversation. I'm not expecting that they need help. I'm not gonna tell them anything personal about you or any of the planning that we're doing. I'm not telling them that you recommended that they work with us. I'm just looking for that introduction so that we can get to know them. So that's the second way that we can overcome the objection of let me think about it and let me get back to you. The third strategy you can use to overcome the objection of let me think about it or let me ask them or let me get back to you is actually adopting a slightly different process to get these people's contact information. And what you can do in this scenario is actually bring something called a feeds list or a feeder list. So what this looks like is you show up to the meeting, fact finder, close, annual review, whatever that looks like. And instead of just asking this person, whoever it is that you're sitting down with, hey, who do you know? You bring a list of people with their names. These are people that you can get from LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and you can basically share, hey, listen, my marketing team, we're always looking to meet great people. And so my marketing team put together a list of 7 people that we noticed that you were connected with, right, through some social media platform. No expectations if you know them or not, but just wanted to make the brainstorming process a little bit more effective for us. Now, here's the kicker. Here's what you do. You actually grab that person's name and phone number. And what you do is you put their name and phone number on the actual sheet. You can grab this from True People Search, from A-Identified, from Rocket Reach. There are a variety of platforms online now that allow you to gather people's information. And so you put their email and phone number on the sheet. And so when you go through the list, you're not asking them for their phone number. You're not asking them for their email address. You're not asking them for permission to contact them. What you say instead is, awesome, so you know these 4 people, great, these 3 people you don't know, awesome. Hey, the team and I were planning on reaching out to them to introduce ourselves. Would you mind if I mentioned that we know each other? Like, would you be cool with that? I won't share anything detailed or personal, but I would love to connect with them and just share with them a little bit more about what the team and I do. And you get their reaction. They say, yeah, totally fine, or no, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. If they're not comfortable with that, you can just say, awesome, like, I'm curious, like, can you share a little bit more? Did you have maybe a not so great experience in the past? If they're like, yeah, no problem with that, cool. Now you can just go off and you can contact those people. Or if you want to be a little ninja, you can say, awesome, like super excited. Actually, what I found, so I'm happy to reach out to them, but what I found is that typically clients really appreciate and respond well to introductions. So if it's cool with you, what I would love to do is email you a little blurb. And if you're comfortable with it, I would love for you to introduce us, right? So just shoot them an email and you can include this little blurb. And what that blurb basically says is like, hey, Scotty and his team are financial advisors. They've been helpful, no expectations if you need any help, but he offers a free 15-minute conversation if you're interested. And so what I found is that those types of introductions actually end up being a lot more comfortable for everyone involved. So I'm happy to reach out to them individually, but if you're comfortable, I would love introductions to those people. How does that sound? You just ask them, right? And assuming that they say yes, boom, now you've gotten those 4 introductions. If they say no, no big deal. You can still reach out to them and still connect with them, and you now have their contact information. And guess what? You're not asking for permission. You're just asking them if it's okay that you use their name. So that overcomes the objection of let me talk to them first. You don't need to talk to them. You already told them, I plan on reaching out to these people, period. I'm going to reach out to them. Is it okay that I mention that we know each other, that we work together? I won't share anything detailed or personal. Okay, my friends, those were 3 tactics that you can use right now to overcome the objection. Let me think about it. I'm really curious, which of these are you gonna use? I want you to actually apply this in your business. So put in the comments below which one of these you're gonna use, or if you've used a different strategy that's worked really well for you, I'd love to hear from you as well. If you enjoyed this, if you are a financial advisor or insurance agent and you really want to scale to $25,000 per month consistently, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. That would mean the world to me. And if you're interested in going deeper, I have a free training, the Bulletproof Prospecting System Masterclass, that I'm hosting live. I'll put the link in the show notes. If this is something that you want to explore deeper, if you want to learn how to become a master at prospecting, if you want my scripts, my email templates, my agenda, everything to get leads on your calendar on repeat, then this is going to be the training for you. Go on to the link in the show notes to get access to that free training, and I can't wait to see you there. I hope you have an incredible rest of your day, my friends. I'll talk to you soon.